Good evening and welcome to News Night. I'm Amritpal Singh. This is a show in which we tell you what happened throughout the day. Over the next 1 hour, we'll tell you what is happening, what happened around in the country and around in the world. The big story of the day was the Prime Minister spoke to the global investors, and he had a simple message for them that come to India if you want good returns, invest in India if you want returns with reliability. He said it's a favorable investment destination that provides you with diversity, with democracy and dividends because of the population dividend. Also, the US presidential election is still stuck. There is no clear winner, though Joe Biden, the Democratic candidate and former vice president, is inching closer to victory. He's just 6 votes away, Electoral College votes away from victory, but the incumbent President Donald Trump seems all set to throw a spanner in the works, as he has threatened to go to court and saying that this counting needs to stop now. We'll have to see where that story goes. We'll talk about that. But let's first take a look at the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Prime Minister Modi says India's quest for Aatmanirbhar Bharat is not just a vision but a well-planned economic strategy. Chairing the virtual Global Investors Roundtable of top pension and sovereign wealth funds, Prime Minister Modi says India has shown remarkable resilience in fighting this pandemic, asserts that this resilience is driven by the strength of our systems, the support of our people and stability of the government policies. To improve ease of doing business of the IT industry, particularly the business process outsourcing of the BPOs and IT-enabled services, ITES as they're called, the government drastically simplifies other service provider guidelines of the Department of Telecom. Prime Minister reiterates the commitment of India to make India a technical hub. India registers a strong protest against Pakistan's one-sided action on management of Kartar Sahib Gurdwara management, says the unilateral decision by Pakistan runs against the spirit of the Kartarpur Sahib corridor as the religious sentiments of the Sikh community are heard. Union Home Minister Amit Shah is on a visit to West Bengal. He pays homage to Birsa Munda in Bankura. He eats lunch at the home of a local tribal family, opens front against Trinamool Congress government ahead of the 2021 assembly polls, sets the goal of securing 2/3 majority for the BJP. Politics heats up for the final phase of Bihar assembly polls. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar says it is his final election. Prime Minister addresses a letter to the people of the state, expresses happiness, says development was an issue during the polls in the state. Campaigning for 78 seats ends. Polling is on the 7th of November. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar chairs the second CEO forum on the theme India's climate action, the pivotal role of private sector leadership, outlines India's outstanding performance on climate change mitigation, stresses developing countries need money to follow eco-friendly path. Army Chief Manoj Mukund Narvane's Nepal visit. He meets Nepal President Vidya Devi Bhandari, confers the Army Chief the honorary rank of General of the Nepalese Army. Medical equipment presented to the Nepalese Army as a humanitarian gesture. In the midst of a surge in COVID-19 cases in Delhi, Union Home Minister holds a review meeting, stresses on testing, tracing, treatment to break the chain of transmission. The national recovery rate crosses 92%. Corona cases touch close to 5,33,000. So those were the headlines we were tracking at this hour as far as the nation goes. But the other big story happening globally is the US elections, the presidential polls there. Well, let's take a look at the headlines coming out of the race for the White House. Joe Biden predicts victory over US President Donald Trump after winning 2 critical US states. Trump alleges fraud, files lawsuits and demands recounts in a race yet to be decided a day after the polls closed. US media projects Joe Biden to win the states of Wisconsin and Michigan in the pivotal Rust Belt. Trump looks to challenge the count in both the states, but a Biden win here means he can chart a course to victory without the big state of Pennsylvania. And protests are happening in some places in Europe, in US. Now they turn into riots in Portland. Protesters smash windows. Oregon governor calls in the state National Guard. Joe Biden stops short of declaring victory, launches the www.buildbackbetter.com website for transition to a Democratic-controlled White House. Website says Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to hit the ground running on day one, including rejoining the Paris Climate Pact. Republicans poised to retain control of the upper chamber of U.S. legislature. Sitting lawmaker Susan Collins defies the political odds to win re-election in Maine. Other Republican incumbents lead Democrats in a handful of undecided races. And Kamala Harris's ancestral village in Tamil Nadu is in a festive mood as Joe Biden leads the vote tally. Women are seen drawing murals and decorating houses like it's a festival. So the big story of the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired the virtual Global Investor Roundtable on Thursday, where he pitched India as a favorable investment destination to global investors. The roundtable was an exclusive dialogue between leading global institutional investors, Indian business leaders and the highest decision makers from the Government of India and the financial market regulators. Let's listen in to what the Prime Minister said in his address.
To become Aatmanirbhar is not just a vision, but a well-planned economic strategy. A strategy that aims to use the capabilities of our businesses and skills of our workers to make India into a global manufacturing powerhouse. India bravely fought the global pandemic. The world saw India's national character. The world also saw India's true strength. It is successfully brought out traits that Indians are known for. India has shown remarkable resilience in this pandemic, be it fighting the virus or ensuring economic stability. Our recent reforms in agriculture open up new possibilities to partner with the farmers in India. With the help of technology and modern processing solutions, India will soon emerge as an agriculture export hub. India offers you democracy, demography, demand, as well as diversity, such as our diversity that you get multiple markets within one market. This comes with multiple pocket size and multiple preferences. If you want returns with reliability, India is the place to be. If you want demand with democracy, India is the place to be. If you want stability with sustainability, India is the place to be. If you want growth with a green approach, India is the place to be. Friends, India's growth has the potential to catalyze global economic resurgence. Any achievements by India will have a multiplier impact on world's development and welfare.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a tweet has reiterated his government's commitment to furthering the ease of doing business and making India a technological hub. The Government of India has significantly simplified the other service provider of the OSP guidelines of the Telecom Department. The compliance burdens of BPO industry will be greatly reduced to this. Right now you have to register. The registration requirement for OSP has been done away with altogether. The BPO industry engaged in data related work is out of the ambit of the OSP regulations. Many other requirements have also been done away with. These steps will further improve the flexibility and productivity. And let's now go over to discuss our In Focus tonight. Our In Focus tonight is come to India. The Prime Minister says come to India if you want returns with reliability. I have with me Dilip Chenoy, the Secretary General of FICCI, and Ashok Kumar Bhattacharya, Editorial Director of Business Today. Both gentlemen, many thanks for joining us on this show. First to you, Mr. Chenoy, you must have heard the Prime Minister's address. What do you think was the key message that he gave to the global investors today in this virtual summit?
I think there were three key messages here. First, of course, like you said in your opening statement about India being a good investment destination and also offering, growth with stability and returns. So there was this whole message around that and messaging of all the reforms that have been carried and the initiatives that have been carried forward till now and how it looks good for manufacturing, agriculture and other parts of services. The second important message was that there's this huge opportunity, and this was a finance ministry, NIIF, event there, and there's a $1.5 trillion opportunity in the infrastructure space, whether it be roads, ports, airports, low-cost housing, etc. And this real opportunity comes with a lot of other things, and you talked about diversity of markets, the diversity of opportunity, etc. And the third big message was that India could really lead the resilience and be the center of economic growth for the whole global order. And that was a very important message there, which he actually talked about. So I think these were the three big messages which would be there. And I think this whole thing of India's growth, India growth could catalyze the revival of the global economy and put the global economy back on the growth path.
Okay, let me go over to A.K. Bhattacharya. AKB, the Prime Minister began by, talking about the pandemic, and he said it showed our people's resilience, our nation's the stability of our government policies and our endurance to, keep the economic engine rolling even in these difficult times. What was he trying to tell the global investors?
Well, I think he was trying to underline the importance of India's huge market, its huge potential as a global growth engine. Because don't forget that India now is the fifth largest economy in the world, and whatever happens to India, it does impact the global growth. So therefore, I think he is trying to convey, and rightly so, that if you invest, and these are the top fund managers, the venture capitalists,
right.
The pension fund managers. So it is not just a question of investing in greenfield projects or brownfield projects, but it's also investing in Indian securities, Indian companies. So it was a message to the global money bags, so to say that India is now ready for doing more business and has, after having countered the adverse impact of COVID, and as we have seen in the various data points, that after the first quarter's 24% growth contraction, there are, the high frequency indicators of the economy. They show that there is some sort of a revival, and it's the steady progress in GST collections. And what he has added to his pitch is the mention or the enumeration of the reform measures that the government has taken, particularly in the area of agriculture. And don't forget, he also talked about the reforms that have been done in the area of the labor codes. And finally,
Banking
his
reforms.
major point was on the taxation. Today the corporation tax rates for new ventures and new manufacturing companies is right now around 15%, now which is globally competitive. So therefore, he is trying to present India as a market that can absorb these investments because it is remunerative. And underlying all that is India's huge hunger for investments. As Mr. Chinoy pointed out, that we have an infrastructure pipeline project which is around 105 lakh crore. Now, this infrastructure pipeline will remain a dream if we don't get the foreign investment and the foreign capital to come in. What I need to also add here is that the last few months, the government has also liberalized the foreign direct investment policies to some extent. This is work in progress. More liberalization needs to take place. But I think on the whole, in the presence of the RBI governor, his own cabinet colleagues, and the industry leaders of India, he was trying to be a very effective salesman for the Indian economy so that the country gets the advantage of more investment and can give a bigger push to India's growth engine, which came up with a poor number in the first quarter of the current financial year.
Okay. Mr. Chinoy, the Prime Minister said India offers you democracy, demography, demand, as well as diversity. He said such is our diversity that you get multiple markets within one market. They come with multiple pocket sizes, multiple preferences, multiple weathers, and multiple levels of development. What was he trying to say to the global investors here?
I think the underlying message in that, and there were two other points which I'll come back after I answer your question. I think there were multiple points on this because there are different companies of various sizes and in various parts of the manufacturing or services or the food processing chain. And what he was actually conveying is for every size and type and nature of company, there is an opportunity in India. Even for large diversified companies, there is a diversity of opportunity in India within itself, and the opportunity is huge, and it's a stable opportunity, and it's a growth opportunity going forward. And he actually used a very interesting term. He used the word ESG, which is environment, social, and governance. Yes. If you look at the current trend world over in all the large financial investors, and there's a lot of emphasis on ESG. And he also said that there are Indian corporates who are examples of good ESG practices, and therefore that was an added aligning of the opportunities in India with what's in the mind of investors. And he talked about the changes that have been done in the financial sector and the financial reforms, and also of GIFT City, which is an international gateway. So he started off by saying that this is an opportunity to align our thoughts and vision about India being a great investment opportunity and being an engine of growth for the global economy. So I think coming back, it's any type of company, small, medium, large, multi-product, single product. If you're looking for a market in India, the diverse nature of in different states in India actually offers you an opportunity, and it is there for you. And all the reforms and all the tax incentives, in fact, even the production linked incentive schemes he talked about, I think they're all there and come and invest in India.
Okay. AKB, you talked about, the Prime Minister touching about the structural reforms that the government has brought in various sectors, the labor market, the corporate taxes. But there is one sector that he stressed upon, that is the agriculture sector. He said the recent reforms in the agriculture open up exciting new possibilities to partner with our farmers. He said with the help of technology and modern processing solutions, India will soon emerge as an agriculture export hub. With agriculture constituting such a big part of our economy, was he wooing all sorts of partnerships from technology to equipment manufacturers to, investors to come and partner there?
I think I'm glad you have raised this issue because we need to understand what is being done to Indian agriculture in the overall context. Okay. Now, most of our policies on agriculture were framed at a time when Indian agriculture was in a scarcity situation, where in a deficit situation, where we used to import our main agricultural food items. Over the last several decades, what we have seen is that the Indian agriculture has become self-sufficient, and not only self-sufficient, but it is also now becoming an important component of our total overall export basket. Now, but the policies have not changed. The policies continue to be focused as if Indian agriculture is still in a crisis stage, where in a deficit stage. So the agricultural reforms that took place in the key three areas were actually aimed at making sure that investments start taking place in Indian agriculture, which have been in short supply in the last several years. And the reforms will hopefully lead to greater investment in agriculture, in infrastructure that allows the Indian farmers and Indian agriculture to take full advantage of the markets. And the Prime Minister talked about the possibility of partnerships. And I think that's a very, very important area, and that needs to be looked at closely and with proper supervision, because after all, the Indian farmer needs that kind of support and a kind of a regulatory supervision by which his interaction with the corporate sector, whether it is with the farmer-producer cooperatives or whether it is the farmer-producer companies, are such that the farmer is not, in a sense, compromised or shortchanged. So I think on both, more investment in agriculture infrastructure, more investment in cold storages, more investment in cold chains, and more investment in private mandis where grains can be sold by the farmers without compromising the existing mandis, without compromising the minimum support prices scheme, will also help Indian companies to come and take full advantage of the potential of the Indian agriculture, which is why the Prime Minister talked about the possibilities. So therefore, the coming years, in my view, will have to be watched very closely, and the policy implementation will become even more important and critical if the kind of the reforms that agriculture has seen in the last few months are actually going to bear the best fruits for the Indian economy as well as for the Indian farmer.
All right. A.K. Bhattacharjee, Dilip Chunai, both gentlemen, that's all the time we have for in the show. Thank you for joining us and sharing your insights and perspective with us. Thank you. And let's now turn to the United States, which is holding its presidential election. It's a day after the polls closed. The results are still not out, but let's take a look at what's happening in the race to the White House. So a day after the polls, with the US presidential polls closed, a clear winner is still not in place. in the elections, though Democratic candidate Joe Biden seems to be inching towards victory in the U.S. presidential election with 264 projected electoral college votes. Remember, Biden needs just 6 more votes. 270 is the magic figure to reach the White House. With 6 key battleground states yet to be called, incumbent Donald Trump has now threatened to throw a spanner in the works by going to court.
An unprecedented tension with the race for the White House still standing at knife's edge nearly 48 hours after the voting closed and counting began. The bone of contention are the still incoming mail ballots. 6 states, accounting for 71 seats in the Electoral College, remain to be called, with over 95% votes counted in Georgia and North Carolina. And of course, the allegations are flying thick and fast, with the Trump camp claiming voter fraud in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Georgia and Michigan. They have moved court in these states, seeking a stop to the counting of votes.
Guys, this is fraud. This is absolute fraud. We've seen it in Philadelphia before. They're trying to make a mockery of the election of this country. We're going to win Pennsylvania, but they're trying to cheat us out of it because they know it's their only path to victory.
This afternoon, the Trump campaign filed a lawsuit to stop the counting of ballots in Pennsylvania. That is simply wrong. It goes against the most basic principles of our democracy. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that every vote counts.
Meanwhile, a seemingly confident Joe Biden made an extremely measured statement, stopping short of declaring a win.
And now, after a long night of counting, it's clear that we're winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners.
Protests broke out across the US, with both Democratic and Republican supporters taking to the streets. That the courts will have a major role to play seems clear, with Donald Trump threatening to move the Supreme Court and more than 300 lawsuits filed across 44 states regarding postal and early voting in elections, even before the voting on 3rd November.
Most of the election questions should get resolved by state courts to the extent that they have to do with how states count their own ballots and what counts as a lawful vote under state law. That's the kind of question that state courts should be resolving as a matter of state law. And the US Supreme Court shouldn't really have a role in determining that.
That Donald Trump and the Republican camp won't go down without a fight is clear, and perhaps is adding to the all-pervasive anxiety.
Part of the problem right now is that the peaceful transfer of power has been a core part of the American successful experiment with democracy over the last 200 years. And so if a president refuses to step down when he loses the vote, that creates a tremendous destabilizing effect on the democracy.
Well, I know Biden will accept the results. I hope Trump accepts the results if he is not the victor, because it will be a great deal of waste of time, confusion, and money if he's going to take it to the courts.
At the end of the day, I think it's really about having determination to count every single vote that was placed and be restrained in thinking about who the winner is, because I think it's still a marathon and the finish line actually hasn't been crossed until all the votes are counted.
With the Republican camp seeking a recount in Wisconsin as well as moving court, there doesn't seem to be a resolution in sight. And with the postal ballots still pouring when the vote count will end, also remains to be seen. So, as they say, it ain't over till it is. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
So protests have started in parts. Riots have broken out in Portland, protesters smashed windows. The state National Guard had to be called by the Oregon governor. So the situation is changing by the minute, but it seems that officially there is no winner right now. Joe Biden is a little short of victory, but he's ahead of Donald Trump. But Donald Trump saying that we will go to court on the issue of asking for a recount, or he attacked the postal ballot system. So all that puts the US president's election in a sort of situation which is not very clear as of now. We don't have a clear winner, but as we said, Joe Biden is ahead. Let's pictorially look at how America today looks like. This is what the map of the US looks like. Well, the blue states are the states that have gone the Democratic way. California, the biggest state, Oregon, Nevada is still yet to be called, Arizona is still to be called, but they're leaning towards Joe Biden. These are the states. You can see the middle America red. In fact, you can see more red than blue. Joe Biden, though, has the popular vote of 50.5%. He's ahead, but Donald Trump has secured about 48%. But that's the popular vote. That's the popular vote. His popular vote, Joe Biden's, is more, but more America on the map seems red to you because these are smaller states. Look at California, for example. It has 55 states, 55 seats from the Electoral College. North Carolina has 15, which seems to be leaning the red way or the Republican way. Georgia is still to come in there. So these are states which are still to come in. These are what are known as the battleground states or the key states. Now these are where Texas has already come in, Florida has already come in. Florida, which is generally called the bellwether state, that means it goes with the winner, has this time chosen to go with the Republican, but this could upset the trend of the past. Texas, a big state with 38 Electoral College members or 38 votes, has gone to Donald Trump, but with just 6 votes short, because Joe Biden right now, it is being said, is about 6 votes short, but though this figure shows 243 right now. But you see, if he gets Nevada, Arizona, he makes it to the magic number of 270. So that is these are the key. Pennsylvania with 20 seats is yet to come in. North Carolina is yet to come in. Joe Biden, Donald Trump has a lead on that, but that margin is narrowing. These are where votes are still being counted. This is the breakup. You can see Georgia has gone, is inching towards the Joe Biden way, the Republican way, which this thing, but in terms of popular vote, Donald Trump is only slightly ahead. In Nevada, Joe Biden, which is leaning the blue way, as you can see on the map, Joe Biden has 49.3%, whereas 48.7%. So there is less than 1% gap there. If you look at North Carolina, though is tilting. It's a big state with 15 votes. It's going the Trump way with 50.1% votes. There is about less than 2% gap there. Pennsylvania, which is again a big state, seems to be going right now the Donald Trump way with 50.7%, and Joe Biden taking about 48.1% of the popular vote. Now these are big states, but as Joe Biden is short just of a few numbers, Joe Biden is short of 6 numbers. That is what the US media is projecting. We'll have to know. If we look at these are the blue states, as you can see on the map. Arizona, Joe Biden has secured about 52% votes. California, 65% of the vote count. These states are states which have gone the blue way, have gone with the Democrats. Colorado, he's got 55%. Connecticut, 59%. Delaware, his home state, 59%. Now this is what the blue map looks like. These 2 states, Nevada and Arizona, are yet to come in. Hawaii, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, He's got a clear when these states have been called in. Michigan and Wisconsin we are told, have gone the Joe Biden way. So that has added, to the kitty of Joe Biden. Therefore, the figure which we are showing you here is a slightly older figure. He's just the new figure with Wisconsin and Michigan, as the US media is reporting, have been called out. So this figure has changed, and he's just 6 votes short. So that means he takes Nevada, he takes Arizona. He's made it to the magic figure of 270. If you look at again, blue states: New Jersey, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont. If we can go to the other, if we can look at, okay, now these again are blue states: Virginia, Washington, DC, the federal capital, Wisconsin. These are the blue states which have already been called out. Now, the red map is the Republican map. Now, Republican states, if you look at, these are Pennsylvania, North Carolina, are yet to be called in, but the other states have been called out, and they have gone to the Republicans. If you look at, these are Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho. These states have already been called out, and these states have gone to Donald Trump. Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana. He has a clear lead there in the states: Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Carolina, which Donald Trump has taken these seats. North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania is still being counted. South Carolina has already been called. There he's got a 55% lead in the popular vote, and that state has gone that way. South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia. Utah and West Virginia. With West Virginia, he's got a 69% lead. Wyoming, 75% to the traditional, the red state, which has gone, the tradition has voted traditionally. Now, if we take a look at, this is how the United States looks like as of today. The counting process is still on. We'll now have to see where does Donald Trump, if he loses, will he play a bad loser? He's already threatened to go to the courts. He's calling for a stop in the counting. He's attacked the postal ballot system. Does he have a case? We'll talk about that after a very short break. Don't go away.
बदल रहा संसार, सभी व्यापारी हो जाओ तैयार। डिजिटल दुनिया का सफर है शुरू होने को बेकरार। हर कदम पे आगे रखा आपने अपना व्यापार। इसी जोश से बढ़ें फिर एक बार। खुलेंगे व्यापार करने के नए रास्ते और होंगी बातें डिजिटल दुनिया के एक्सपर्ट से। सुनेंगे किस्से अपने जैसे व्यापारियों के और देखेंगे कैसे उनका बिजनेस बदला डिजिटल से। तो बस ऑन कीजिए अपना टीवी और निकल पड़िए डिजिटल दुनिया के सफर पर। नमस्ते डिजिटल के साथ सिर्फ डीडी न्यूज और डीडी इंडिया पर इन एसोसिएशन विद गूगल।
And our in focus tonight on our second in focus tonight is US polls, no clear winner yet, but Joe Biden inches closer to victory. And to talk more on that, I have with me Arun Kesing, India's former ambassador to the United States. Ambassador Singh, many thanks for joining us. Ambassador Singh, my opening question to you: what is your hunch Which way will the US go? Where will the race to, who will win the race to the White House? How does it look to you at this moment?
I think it's still a bit difficult to predict, but the trend is clearly weighing in favor of Joe Biden because if he wins Arizona, and that's still very close, then after that he needs to win only 1 out of the 4 states. Whereas President Trump will have to win all 4 out of 4 to win. So trend is certainly in favor of Joe Biden, but till the final results come in, I think it would be difficult to predict because the race is very close in all the remaining states. And the gaps are closing in Arizona and Nevada, where Joe Biden is leading, Trump is catching up. In Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, where Trump is leading, Biden is catching up, and enough votes still remain to come in. So I think at this stage it's better to just hold back and wait for the final count to be over.
But clearly, I mean, Arizona and Nevada seem the projections that are coming out of there, though these states have not been called in. Either of the state goes the Joe Biden way, it looks like he'll reach the magic figure of 270.
No, he'll need both. So, many have counted Arizona already for Joe Biden. And only if you count Arizona that he reaches 264. And then he needs Nevada to reach 270. So he needs to win both to cross that figure. And so some, media groups have called Arizona for Joe Biden. Others have not. And although he remains in the lead in Arizona, the gap is closing a bit. So others are looking at it with a bit more caution.
Okay. Now, there is a very disturbing trend that is emerging. The Oregon governor has called in the National Security Guard, the state National Security Guard there. Riots have broken out in Portland. We are seeing protests all over. Now with Donald Trump threatening to go to court, could we see a very polarized society there, a difficult situation, even if Joe Biden emerges the winner?
Look, society in the US is already very, very polarized. You saw a lot of protests and violence even before the elections had taken place. There's a sense of deep-rooted racism in the United States. The police force has been accused of systematic racism. So there is, and then a lot of, the white nationalist groups have been encouraged and fanned under President Trump. Many of them had come out with guns at various protests. Many had threatened that they would come out and try and watch the election process as a way of doing voter intimidation. Now, fortunately, that didn't play out any big way. But if you look at the results of the election so far, neither Joe Biden nor President Trump has so far got more than 50% of the popular vote. And Joe Biden has got a little more than 49%, President Trump a little more than 48%. That itself is a reflection of deep division within US society. It's a division between urban areas, rural areas. It's a division between those who are motivated also by white nationalist sentiment and the minority groups. It's a division between college-educated people, non-college educated people. So there are deep divisions that US society is struggling with. And there has been a lot of criticism of President Trump in his tenure in terms of his lack of ethical practices related to business, not paying taxes in the past. But despite all that, his core base of support remains with him. And these are the people who are angry, as they feel, with what they describe as the Washington-based establishment. And they feel that in the process of globalization that the US had led since 1990 after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, their interests were ignored. They lost their jobs, their income levels went down, drug addiction went up, longevity came down. So these are the people who have stayed with Trump. And President Trump has tried to play up this claim that he's not a politician, he's an outsider like them, whereas Joe Biden is a traditional politician, has been in and around Washington for more than 4 decades, and that they should remain with him. So I think that polarization will continue. even after the results of the elections come out. And even assuming that President Trump loses, he will try to keep his base with him, try to influence Republican politics, try to influence the new president, try and make it difficult for him to achieve his objectives. So we are going to see these tensions continuing to play in the US.
Very quickly, my producer tells me I'm totally out of time. When could we expect? By when could we expect the result? Over the weekend?
Well, nobody knows because, you know, in some states, for example, Pennsylvania, the counting can go on to 3 days after the elections, so till November 6th. In some states, they can go on for 10 days after the elections. So, but I think if Arizona and Nevada results come out soon enough, then perhaps by the weekend one should expect the results to be known.
Ambassador Singh, many thanks for joining us and sharing your insights with us. That's it for the moment. Thank you very much, Ambassador Singh.
Thank you.
And let's now take you to Thula Senthirapuram, which is a village in Tamil Nadu. This is the ancestral village of Kamala Harris. Though she was born in the US, but her mother was born here. Folks here are in a festive mood after the news filters in that the Biden-Kamala Harris duo is leading the poll. Women were seen drawing rangolis and decorating houses like it is a festival. The youth can often be seen looking at their mobile phone screens, looking out for updates on the US election. The village, which is located about 320 kilometers south of Chennai, is where Harris's maternal grandfather was born more than a century ago. And our Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Prakash Javadekar, virtually chaired the India CEO Forum on Climate Change. In his address, Prakash Javadekar said that India is walking the talk on climate change. India is compliant in action and contribution. He said that India is asking the world leaders and other nations to walk the talk and be compliant with the Paris Agreement.
A brainstorming session was held by India CEO Forum to formulate strategy to address the issue of climate change. CEOs of Indian companies signed a declaration after the virtual meeting chaired by Union Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar. Companies participated in the meeting offered full support to the government to meet the Paris obligation. While chairing the India CEO Forum, Prakash Javadekar said that climate change is a very important issue which requires contribution and joint action from the entire globe.
I will just appeal, and I'm very sure that many factories are actually doing that they are trying to reduce their emissions. They are bringing more greenery in their campuses and their areas of influence. They are also using new technologies for saving water, and energy efficiency is also one more concern.
India is
solar power. We will have 100 gigawatt by 2022, 175 gigawatt of renewable power by 2022, and now the Prime Minister has taken it to a new height of 450 gigawatts by 2030. India is walking the talk. India is 2 degrees compliant in action and in contributions. And therefore, we are asking world leaders and world other countries that they also should walk the talk and they also should be compliant with the Paris Agreement, and that is what is needed today.
The Indian CEOs from different sectors like cement, steel, energy and pharma took part in the India CEO Summit. They affirmed that India is taking all the necessary steps to follow the Paris Agreement on climate change.
The Mahindra Group, through all its companies, has proactively pursued ways to enhance energy productivity, adoption of renewable energy across all companies, take tangible steps towards creating a circular economy, enhance water harnessing.
We have taken several strides towards this goal by progressively increasing the proportion of renewable energy used in our operations. As a leading manufacturer of electric vehicles in India, we are actively working to make them more popular, accessible, affordable across the country.
We at JSW Steel Operations, we have reduced our CO2 emissions by 25% from 2005 levels and have set a target to reduce by 41% by 2030.
We have built a total 25,000 megawatt renewable energy assets in a 32 country. Out of that, 14,000 megawatt in India and 11,000 is outside the country. In the next decade, we will add another 20,000 megawatts of the renewable assets. India, majority.
The CEO Forum has been designed as a platform to bring the industry and government together to work towards climate change, sharing the roadmap, measures and other practices to bring out the best for the purpose. India has set nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. Accordingly, by 2030, carbon emissions have to be reduced by 35%. By 2030, 40% of electricity is to be produced from non-fossil fuels. The carbon sink has to be increased by 2.5 to 3 million tons. Ajay Vikram Singh's report, DD India.
And Union Home Minister Amit Shah is on a visit to West Bengal. He paid homage to Birsa Munda in Bankura. Shah said that the BJP will build a golden Bengal if voted to power in the state. After reaching Bankura, Amit Shah said that the BJP will form a government with 2/3 majority in the state after next year's polls.
Resolving to make Bengal as Sonar Bangla, Home Minister Amit Shah arrived in West Bengal on a 2-day visit on Thursday. Taking a dig at Mamata Banerjee, Amit Shah urged the people of the state to give a chance to BJP to fulfill the resolve of making it Sonar Bangla.
मैं निश्चित रूप से देख रहा हूं कि ममता सरकार का मृत्युगंड बच चुका है। आने वाले दिनों में यहां भारतीय जनता पार्टी की 2/3 बहुमत की सरकार बनने जा रही है। मैं आज बंगाल की जनता को अपील करने आया हूं कि बंगाल एक सरहदी प्रांत है। देश की सुरक्षा बंगाल की आंतरिक सुरक्षा के साथ जुड़ी है। देश की सुरक्षा को सुनिश्चित करने के लिए, बंगाल के युवा को रोजगारी देने के लिए और बंगाल के गरीब लोगों को दारुण गरीबी से बाहर निकालने के लिए इस सरकार को उखाड़कर फेंक दीजिए।
Amit Shah began his tour with a wreath laying at the statue of Birsa Munda in the tribal area of Bankura district. Attacking Mamata Banerjee, Amit Shah said that the state is witnessing severe public anger against the Trinamool government. He said Mamata is not letting central schemes reach the poor.
मैं ममता दीदी को बताना चाहता हूं कि आपके मन में भय है कि इन योजनाओं को रोकने से आप भारतीय जनता पार्टी को रोक लोगी, तो आपकी भ्रांति है। आप एक गरीब लोगों के लिए मोदी जी ने जो 6,000 रुपया प्रति साल भेजा है वो पहुंचने दीजिए, स्वास्थ्य की सुविधाएं पहुंचने दीजिए, शौचालय पहुंचने दीजिए, इनका घर उन तक पहुंचने दीजिए, तो शायद थोड़ा बहुत भी आपके लिए सोचेंगे।
Union Home Minister visited the Chaturthi village of Bankura and met the tribal families. During the meeting, he shared lunch with the tribal family. This is the first visit of the Home Minister after the COVID-19 pandemic in the state. Earlier, Amit Shah visited the state in March. With inputs from Anibroto in West Bengal, Bureau Report, DD India.
And India on Thursday registered a strong protest against Pakistan's one-sided action of changing the management of Kartarpur Sahib Gurdwara. India said that the unilateral decision by Pakistan runs against the spirit of Kartarpur Sahib corridor, as also it has hurt the religious sentiments of the Sikh community.
The real face of the so-called humane aspect of the Pakistani establishment has taken less than a year to surface. Pakistan has transferred the management and maintenance of the holy Gurdwara Kartarpur Sahib from the Pakistan Sikh Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, a body run by the minority Sikh community, to the administrative control of the Evacuee Trust Property Board, a non-Sikh body. India has strongly condemned this act by Pakistan. In a statement, the MEA has said that this unilateral decision by Pakistan is highly condemnable and runs against the spirit of the Kartarpur Sahib corridor, as also the religious sentiments of the Sikh community at large. Further, India has said that such actions only expose the reality of the Pakistani government and its leadership's tall claims of preserving and protecting the rights and welfare of the religious minority communities.
उन्होंने मैनेजमेंट कमेटी को चेंज कर दिया है और जो वहाँ पे हमारी गुरुद्वारा कमेटी थी उनके जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स को हटा के उन्होंने अपनी कोई ISI की टीम ले आए हैं। इस पे भारत सरकार की तरफ से और गृह मंत्रालय की तरफ से और विदेश मंत्रालय की तरफ से आएगी। अपनी तरफ से तो मैं आई कैन एक्सप्रेस डिसअपॉइंटमेंट and I strongly condemn this.
The Sikh community is enraged and is demanding the reversal of the decision.
जो ਹੁਣ मैं समझदा कि पाकिस्तान सरकार ने जो फैसला किया है बहुत ही दुखदाई है, बहुत मंदभागा है, क्योंकि गुरुद्वारा श्री करतारपुर साहिब ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਸਿੱਖ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਪ੍ਰਬੰਧ ਕਮੇਟੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਹੁਣ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜੋ ਪਾਕਿस्तान ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਮੈਨੇਜਮੈਂਟ ਯੂਨਿਟ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ और मैं समझता ये बहुत ही मंदभागा है।
गुरुद्वारा प्रबंधक कमेटी है वहाँ पे पाकिस्तान गुरुद्वारा प्रबंधक कमेटी, हालांकि वो नॉमिनेटेड है लेकिन है तो वो सिख, उनको चिंता है गुरुद्वारे की। उनसे छीनकर ये कहना कि अब ETBB जिसके अंदर 9 के 9 मेंबर जो हैं वो नॉन सिख हैं, सारे इस्लाम से हैं, और उसके अंदर जो हमारे मिनॉरिटी के मेंबर थे ETB बोर्ड में भी हमारे मेंबर थे, पहले उनको बाहर निकाला गया बोर्ड से, फिर ETB बोर्ड के अंदर सारे इस्लामिक लोग लाए गए, फिर ETB बोर्ड के अंदर गुरुद्वारा करतारपुर साहब उनको हैंडओवर कर दिया गया, फिर ऑर्डर पास कर दिया गया कि अब इनके सारे प्रबंध, इनकी सारी मैनेजमेंट वो करेंगे।
The Imran Khan-led government in Pakistan made tall claims and promises of opening up the corridor, providing all facilities to the pilgrims, but its actions have proven otherwise. From charging fees from the pilgrims to transferring the management to a non-Sikh body, its actions have exposed its duplicity. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan has lauded DD News and DD India's campaign, the Mask Up campaign that creates mass awareness on how to properly wear a mask. He called upon the people to wear masks and go for COVID appropriate behavior.
मैं DD न्यूज़ को बहुत बहुत बधाई देना चाहता हूं कि वो भारत के लोगों को प्रेरित करने के लिए और उन्हें सही शिक्षा देने के लिए मास्क अप कैंपेन को बहुत ही प्रोएक्टिवली चला रहा है। हमने इस कोविड के खिलाफ जंग में 10 महीने में ये सीखा है कि जब तक रेगुलर वैक्सीन नहीं आएगी तब तक सबसे बड़ी सोशल वैक्सीन ये मास्क है, और ये मास्क भी ठीक प्रकार से इस्तेमाल करना, ठीक प्रकार से पहनना, बात करते समय भी इसको नहीं उतारना, और घर से बाहर निकलने पर निश्चित रूप से इसको हर समय पहन के रखना, और साथ में इसके जो बाकी बातें हैं 2 गज की दूरी, और उसके साथ साथ जो हाथ धोना साबुन से, पानी से, अपने रेस्पिरेटरी एटिकेट्स का पालन करना, भीड़ भड़क्के से दूर रहना, ये चीज़ों के लिए कैंपेन करना बहुत ज़रूरी है। इन्हीं सब चीज़ों का नाम है कोविड एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर, और जो लोग कोविड एप्रोप्रिएट बिहेवियर कर रहे हैं, मैं विश्वास के साथ कह सकता हूं कि उनका कोरोना बाल बांका भी नहीं कर सकता।
So listen to him, follow COVID appropriate behavior, wash your hands regularly, maintain social distancing, and most importantly, when you go out, wear a mask. This mask protects you against COVID-19. Well, that's it from me and my team in Newsnight Tonight. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.